what makes you geek out when you come to Comic-Con?
Well, you know, I used to come to these things before I was a quote-unquote celebrity, because I was a fan myself. And I could really wander around, and I like to go to the artist row and see the artists actually draw. I collected Silver Age and Golden Age comic books so I could go through all the bins of comics and so forth. But as it changed, I remember the year 1976, we went and brought R2 and props from the movie before it came out. And trying to explain Star Wars before anybody had seen it. They go, no, wait a minute. Sir Alec Guinness and an 8-foot, like, furry dog monkey creature in the same scene? So it was really hard to describe. It was like, well, I guess you had to be there, because we really didn't have any clips or anything. We just had props and so forth. But I bond really easily with these people. You know, people say, aren't the fans so weird? I said, you know, I think in many ways, by them being able to act on their deepest fantasies, they're probably more well-adjusted than a lot of people that are laying out on the couch for their psychiatrist every week. I mean, they're totally in tune with what they like, and they don't care what you think about it. So it's wonderful in a way, and it's overwhelming to get this kind of, to experience the kind of affection they have for projects you've been involved in. I mean, next week I'll be in the backyard picking up after my dog, taking the trash cans out. I mean, it's so I don't take it for granted. It's something very special.
What's the craziest fan experience you've ever had here?
Well, I don't know so much here. I do know that one time I was being driven back from the airport by a cabbie who was going on about how Darth Vader was the archangel of Lucifer, and that Luke was blocking his re-entry into our realm from another dimension. And I'm starting to look at the little card and memorizing his name. He reached over at one point to get something out of the glove compartment. I thought, if he comes out with a handgun, I don't know what I'm going to do because I can't jump out of the car this fast. But I do know when I got home, I told him I lived about 5 houses down. And I dropped out in another house and then waited till he left and snuck back. So, I mean, when you talk about fantasy or other worlds and so forth, there's a tiny, infinitesimal segment of people that are not like you or I. And when you come face to face with them, it's like gulp. But mostly it's, I mean, again, I'm singling out one oddball experience in all these 30 years that it's been going on. For the most part, it's been wonderful because people feel like they know you. Kids are taught not to talk to strangers, and they don't think I am one. So it's really a gift, I think.
Let's just say that you weren't cast as Luke Skywalker. After we've seen the entire Star Wars franchise play out, are there any other roles that you could have seen yourself as, or you would have liked to have played if you weren't Luke?
It would have been fun to voice one of the aliens or something where you're not seen. You know, I venture to say I wouldn't have chosen Jamaican for Jar Jar Binks, but I might not have been hired for that part because of that. I remember John Carpenter came to me after we worked on something, Body Bags, I think it was, or maybe Children of the Damned. But in any case, he said, will you do a trailer for me, a voiceover trailer, and do your Christopher Lee? And I said, what are you talking about? I don't do Christopher Lee. He said, oh, no. Remember when you talked about working with Christopher Lee and how he said, I don't wish to be talking about Dracula forever. Do you know that I played Mephistopheles in an opera based on the life of Mephistopheles? So, and I said, and that happens to me all the time. If I tell a story about Harrison Ford, hey, kid, I didn't really know that you were supposed to... You know, you try and take on the feeling of the person, although I don't do, and now, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jimmy Cagney, you dirty rats. I don't do that. But I said to him, well, what are you talking about? He said, no, when you talked about working with Christopher Lee, just do it in that lower register like Christopher with that slight mid-Atlantic accent. And we'll trick it up a little bit. You know, put on those modulation things that lower your register even more down into James Earl Jones territory. So, and when I saw the finished trailer, I swear to God, my own mother wouldn't have recognized me. And that's the thrill. I love when you do something and people don't realize it's you. So that's what I would pick in all those Star Wars movies. Something where some other actor wore the mask, and I went in and dubbed it before lunchtime. Guinness went in, and he told me he went, and James Earl Jones, same thing. They would finish before lunch. And Alec told me, Sir Alec told me that, he said, I think I've earned more this morning in 5 hours than I would have learned in my entire career. I said, really? Because he took me out to lunch at an Italian restaurant. And, you know, he didn't really like the way it all went. The merchandising really troubled him. And I could see his point of view. None of us knew we were signing up to be lunch boxes and electric toothbrushes and underoos. Right now, people all over the world are sitting on my face.
I'm actually wearing them right now.
You are, see? So, I mean, the pop side of me, I kind of enjoyed it, you know, because I loved being a bubblegum card. But that's not why. I remember asking Alec why he accepted the part. This is while we were still making it, when we were in Africa, the first 10 days of shooting. And he said, well, I always wanted to play a wizard in a children's fairy tale, which is the way he looked at it. He didn't really look at it as science fiction. And I saw his point. We had a wizard, a farm boy, a pirate. You know, I mean, if we'd been traveling in horse-drawn carriages, people would have seen it was, especially the first three, were much more fairy tale-ish. And he just thought the merchandising grew to the point where it was just egregious. And, you know, who's to argue with him? Especially with the crappy deals we got.